Hello, everyone.
So we're there we go. Yeah, it seems like everyone's got it now. Oh, that's good. Yay. So we're here, we're celebrating. I mean, there's a lot to be celebrating at the moment, but I mean, we are technically still in Kingmaker season
Yes,
for a while, which is really exciting.
it's so fun to have Kingmakers back and be talking about it again. This series was always a guilty pleasure of mine, and having people go through and read it again and getting the live reactions I'm addicted to it. It's my form of crack.
It is so good, especially because yeah, it ended like about 2 years ago now, and it's always been like such like a pivotal series for everyone, and it's like one of the quintessential like dark college mafia romances. So now that like it's available for everyone, and it's got like the pretty sprayed edges too.
Yeah, well, I feel like it never really hit its full audience the first time. I didn't really know exactly how to market it because I didn't have as much of a new adult audience at the time. I had mostly an older audience, and the dark academia covers and kind of explaining better that that's the vibe of it and that it's college, I think is really helping. And it's one of those series where there's a ton of surprises and twists and turns. So when, especially with the back and forth on Dean, I love when people send me their updates and they're like, okay, today I hate him. Okay, no, just kidding. I got to this part. Now he's my favorite.
I know, yeah. I really think that that's one of the well, and I guess actually that comes to the question of like where your inspiration for Kingmakers come came from, because I feel like one of the things you've always said was the inspiration really came from Dean. He's always been like where you wanted to go from this.
Yes, so whenever I'm working on a series, there's always your starting point, your first idea, and he definitely was the character that I first conceptualized, um, and I knew that I wanted to give him a really good redemption arc. I hadn't really done a major redemption arc, especially not one spanning several books at that point, and I he was definitely the core of everything, and it all built out from there. And I definitely was inspired by Harry Potter. That was a big formative series for me growing up. So I thought, because it's that thing with Hogwarts where you wish that that's where you went to school. It's so much cooler than whatever school I went to. So I wanted to create my own version of a school that was its own separate world and its own set of rules. And going there is like going to another world.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I think that's what's really fun about it is you've got all the different like factions within the university that everyone is like a part of, and especially in book one where you've got, the games that they do every single year that they trying to win and like who's against who and everyone kind of backstabbing everyone, which is a really big portion of the book. And I think you were able to really play with that. But also, you did go into second gen here, which was your first time really going into second gen. Was there anything different that you had to like really get into when doing that? I feel like sometimes when you've got to consider the parents as part of it and everything like that, who was so beloved.
Second gen is definitely a challenge because usually when you set up characters, they come from these chaotic or these broken families, oftentimes, especially in suspense or any kind of dark romance. And so when you're in a second gen series and presumably they have loving, stable parents who are still in love, who are still together, it's not quite the usual background that you would have for dark characters. So that aspect of it creates a challenge because their problems are their own problems. It's not from their background or what's happened to them growing up. So it's a little bit different in that way. Though with mafia families, you can still have the drama of
Yes.
their history. So it helped that it was mafia. I think doing a second gen series where it wasn't mafia would be a lot more challenging.
Oh yeah, if they were just like in their world and you were like, well, they're just living their lives, at least with Mafia, you can be like, and here's all the crazy shit that goes on around them, and that's the reason why they can't be together and all that kind of stuff. Plus, like you said, being able to pull from a university being like kind of like a very fictional, like made up place, you got to like play with that with everything that you did too, which is really cool. Do
Yes.
you have any like favorite scenes or anything from the series that you're like, oh, this was like some of my favorite things to write, or dynamics in the couples?
Oh, well, some of the things that were really interesting with Kingmakers is the gender swapping aspect of second gen. I really enjoyed so in book one, Kingmakers Year One follows Anna, who's the daughter of Mikolaj and Nessa from Stolen Air in the Brutal Birthright series. And she is childhood sweethearts with Leo, who's the child of Seb and Yelena from book six, Heavy Crown. And so it was really interesting. Anna definitely takes after her father more than she does her mother. And then in year two with Miles, who's the son of Callum and Ada, he's more like his mom than he is like his dad in a lot of ways. So it was really fun to take some of those characteristics and imagine them in the opposite
Yeah.
gender character. It was fun to play with and to um, decide what I wanted to be the same about them and what I wanted to be different and how their arc or their journey would be different.
Oh, yeah, I know, and a lot of people are saying how they really appreciate the way that you kind of like protected how the parents were, and then how you've gone into this and kind of really molded the entire universe, which is really what the two series do. They do really marry each other in that sense, but can be also read if you've never started the Brutal Birthright series. You know, it's great that people can just kind of come right into Kingmakers on its own.
Yeah, I really try and write all of my books as standalones in the sense that you should be able to read any one of my books without having read anything else ever. For example, lots of people read year three in the Kingmaker series. That was the first one that they read because they were really interested in Dean's story. But so I've tried to always summarize anything important that you needed to know, so that you can just go in blind and that it's a full, complete story. But I definitely did try to uh not fuck with the original characters too much. I know people have different opinions on this, so no shade if someone else does this differently, but I didn't want to kill anyone that is a beloved character from the previous series because I think that's just a bummer. The compact of romance is that it's a happily ever after,
Yeah.
and I don't like to take away any aspect of the happily ever after later.
Hey, and I mean that is completely valid. Everyone wants to know that like everyone ends up where they're supposed to be, and that like it's not like 10 years down the line and they're having all these marital issues.
No, exactly. Now, it was fun to write some more of Ivan and Sloane's character and to show them later married with kids and to show how things had developed later in their lives. But I definitely would never ruin the fact that they're obsessed with each other or who they are as people because I don't know, I don't want to pull the rug out from under people. There's enough
No.
drama in my books
Yeah.
without stabbing that knife in.
You've done what you've done to the characters. You don't need to keep traumatizing them any further.
Yeah, that's right. They got enough trauma in their own book.
You never know. Well, do you have any characters specifically from Kingmakers that you really resonated with, or who was like maybe one of your personal like favorites that you're just like, oh, this one holds a special place in my heart?
So, so I definitely feel like this is
I
such
know.
a
It's
hard
like
question
pick your
because
favorite child. I know.
yeah, I try and pick one and then I want to pick seven more and explain why they're all amazing in their own way. It's definitely like you can.
Well, maybe if we just since only one and two are technically out, like traditionally right now, let's just go from the first two books.
Yes. So I love Anna in book one. I think that and this was more true when I first started writing romance than it is today. But when I first started writing romance, the FMC always had to be sweet and kind, and usually she was the sunshine to someone else's grumpy. And Anna is not sunshine. She is a dark soul who has depression, who struggles to feel happy in her life even when things are going well, and that's why the dichotomy is between her pull toward Dean, who is more like her, and her pull toward Leo, who is the brightness in her life. He is her sunshine. And I enjoyed kind of flipping the script in that way. Leo, she's not a grumpy exactly, but it's more a reverse grumpy sunshine. And her kind of decision between those two love interests is a decision about who she wants to be or what's the best for her, the healthiest for her in her life. And um, I really enjoyed exploring that, but I do love a love triangle. I know some people can't stand it, but I do like that angst.
I feel like sometimes you just need that angst of sitting there being like, will they, won't they? It's something that's always in, I feel like, fantasy books. So it's like, why not sometimes bring it into, these sagas that you're writing and kind of make people wonder like who you're going to pick between. I feel like it creates little factions of people and it's fun.
Well, and I feel like it's coming back around. We all got a little bit traumatized from the heavy love triangle era where every single book
Yeah.
was a love triangle, and I feel like we all got a bit traumatized, but we're ready for it again, and it's all good because if I write a love triangle, the person who doesn't get picked will still get their own book later, so you don't have to be that sad.
Yeah. Everyone will end up with an HEA eventually
Yeah.
at some point. Well, it's funny that you just mentioned like the ideas of the era where it was super prominent. I was just watching Twilight this weekend.
Yes, yes, the originator of the trauma.
But really, really, although I was rewatching it and I was like, you know, it's really well done, but the graphics are definitely a lot better nowadays.
Yeah. I that trend on TikTok where you post something and then you fumble the camera and you show it's really you posting it. I saw
Yes.
the funniest one the other day that was the screen of Twilight on the TV and they were like, but really Bella should have ended up with Jacob and then he fumbles it and it's Taylor Lautner like,
Yes.
oh God.
I do like that trend. It's always interesting to see. Trends are always so quick and fast with like social media, but that one's definitely one. I think Sierra Simone's assistant just posted one this morning about like she's like, I want Sierra to write this book, and she posted it from Sierra's account, and then it flips back to the assistant being like, oh, never mind.
Was that Flavia?
Yes, it was
Oh,
Flavia.
she is so funny. I love her so much. Oh, yeah.
Oh my god, no, I agree. But I mean, that being said, you do have with the love triangle, year three is going to be coming out very soon with the stunning pink edges. Oh my god,
Yes.
it's going to be
Let me
so
let
pretty.
me grab it. I got it the other day. Let me grab it. I'll show you. I was
Yes.
when I was at the signing with Catherine Cowles, Katie came and brought me an early coffee and I was so happy. It
Oh
looks
my god,
so
it looks
good.
so good.
It's looking very sharp. And I actually have year four too. Look how pretty. So pretty.
That green is just like it's such like a perfect green color that you need. Oh,
Yeah, we even though the covers have changed from the OGs, I tried to keep most of the original colors. We switched Dean's from pink to purple, but I tried to keep most of them the same because I don't know. I just feel like those characters belong with those colors now.
I feel like once you associate a color with a character, you can't
Yes,
really
you
change it too
never
much.
shall they be parted.
No, that's like you start to associate certain things, and it's like, oh well, it's like I would never be able to. Even if I was to make something for the series, I'd be like, well, it'll just end up being that color anyway. Too bad. That's how it's gonna be. Well, and then you also got the new covers for Monarch and Grimstone, which are really stunning. And I feel like I saw a lot of people in the chat, some people saying that picking up Grimstone and Monarch was actually their first time reading you was just recently too.
Yes, that Grimstone was actually my first ever pink cover, and I feel like I'll have to do that again because it turned out so beautifully. It was almost like a dark burgundy with the pink. It was so sharp.
I know the sprayed edges just look so good. Everyone's a fan of sprayed edges. Everyone wants edges nowadays. You see edges on
Oh,
everything. You
yeah.
go into a bookstore, it's there on shelf. It's up. It's in the airports. It's everywhere.
Oh yeah, I'm such a greedy bitch about it now. I want it on everything. It looks so good.
Well, and you also have the really pretty Brittle Prince edition that you did. That was the hardcover with those edges and everything. Some people were commenting about that as well in the chat about how that's like you did such a great job with that too.
Yes, we're working on the Stolen Air one right now. That was my first ever hardcover, and they're special editions. I'm an addict for that too. I am definitely the person that has six copies of Persuasion. Every time they come out with a new pretty color cover, I'm like, yeah, okay, you got me again.
You're like, oh, oh wow, I guess we got another one for the shelf. I know it's like everyone ignore my bookshelves. I don't really have that many. Like it's fine, ignore them. It's all okay. And I mean, that's kind of what's cool about the new paperbacks is they're new collector editions for some people to get if they've got the OGs, but still like providing a place but everyone else can now get your books.
Well, and it's so fun because it allows you to say something more, like, and to really go above and beyond with it. Where um a color version of Anastasia. Well, cross your fingers because we just might have good news for you soon. I have to
Anastasia's
show you
very
guys what else I
beloved.
just got on the mail. Did you
What are you gonna go?
get oh no, where did it go?
Let me
I have
see.
this big old stack back here. This is my overflow
Oh
stack
yeah, I
back there.
sent that to
Have
you.
you
I
seen
forgot.
this one?
I
Katie
popped that in the
Roberts'
mail. I
new
wanted to show
one. I
you.
am just drooling. It's got this thing going on the inner flap. So
Yeah,
freaking pretty.
I wanted. Nah.
Have you
I
read
wanted
that one, Madison?
Yeah, I wanted. We just got that in of Katie's. That comes out very. That comes out next in December, I think. Yeah, the hardcover for Court of the Vampire Queen and the hardcover for Hooked come out in December.
Oh.
But the Court of the Vampire Queen has like the full dust jacket and the edges and the end peep. It's just got like everything on it. And so I was like, look at this one.
I was
Oh, just came out.
stunned. I was
Same.
stunned.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was stunned when it showed up. I literally, a little drool came out of my mouth into the box.
I know. Because what are you, collector editions? They just look so good and they're so much fun to see. And like, who doesn't adore them? Like, come on.
It's too much. I'm gonna go broke, but that's fine. It's fine. I'll just write more books. It'll be fine.
Yes. And I mean, well, we'll talk very, very briefly, but everyone does know that tomorrow is going to be a fun, exciting announcement is going to be coming, which is very, very, very fun.
Yes.
I can't wait. Fun to
New
see it.
series announcement tomorrow. I'm so excited for it. I have been working very, very hard on this one, and Madison has been working very hard on the design for me. So very excited to reveal that.
Tomorrow, very, very soon. Well, and going off that, I think it could be kind of curious to let people know kind of what your writing routine is like. You know, are you writing every single day? Is it like set hours? Kind of how are you going about that for anyone who's wondering?
So I definitely try to write every day. Otherwise, I keeping all the characters and the plot lines and all the little information bits in my head, even if I take a couple days off over the weekend, it's hard to get back into it and remember everything. So I definitely try to write at least 5 or 6 days a week, and I do it right here in this chair. And I start at about 9:30 in the morning and take a little break for lunch with Rye. Today we went and wrote at the beach, so I probably got a little sunburned. But so sometimes I'll go right in the backyard or something too to get outside. Um, and then I write from about 9:30 until 5 every day. And then I sometimes do a little social media stuff afterward, film some videos. But um, yeah, it's routine is definitely the building block of everything for me.
And I mean, it makes sense because I feel like a lot of times when you're writing a book, you have to kind of get into a groove. And if you stop getting into a groove, it can kind of disjoin you. You need to like fully get into that headspace of everything that's going on and really immerse yourself into like what your characters are doing and everything that's kind of going on in their lives and just kind of be them, really. You're part of their family at the end of the day.
That's exactly it. The more immersed I feel and the more I'm thinking about them when I'm not working and everyone's talking inside my head and I'm kind of picturing or planning out the upcoming scenes, the more that it's present and focused, the better the words flow and the more real it feels. And if I even take a week off of work, it's like, what is writing? How to do this?
I don't know how to type anymore. It's like, where is the right key? Do you ever like, well, you mentioned, do you ever like have like in the middle of the night, do you wake up and you're like, I have to write like this, there's a scene that suddenly came to you and then you like jot it down somewhere?
Oh yeah, if I get a good book idea, I will stop anytime, any place. I've literally stopped in the middle of hookups with Ryan and been like, okay, 1 second, hold on. I just want to just quickly that was hot what you said. I'm just gonna
You're like,
I'm just gonna add that
Like, this
here.
gave me an idea. I need to just take a pause.
He's very understanding. He's very understanding. Books come first.
They do, and I mean, you're churning them out. You're doing a great job writing them all right now, and they're all beautifully coming together. Obviously, you're writing a new series right now, but whenever you've finished a series in the past, has it been hard to kind of like let those characters go to like move on to the next project? Have you ever been like, oh, my baby?
Yes, well, yes and no. It's the I usually really try to wrap up everything I want to say inside the story. I really hate when books leave things hanging and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I still do this even at times, but I'm really trying to answer all the questions. What about this and what about that? That's why I love the epilogue. The epilogue's like the final, let me tell
Yeah.
you everything that you're probably wondering about that was mentioned before. So I more struggle when like when Bloom's like, "Hey, will you just real quick write us an extra bonus chapter?" I'm like, "Oh shit." I gotta
You're
shove
like,
my
what
whole load in the
exists?
book.
I know. And that's what I'm like. I got one.
I know you saved me on this last one. You had a great idea for the bonus chapter, so
I'm like, here's something, and I'll come up with something again. I feel like it just depends. I feel like all the time, some people tend to naturally gravitate always towards like marriage as like the bonus epilogues of the scenes like that. But there's always some sort of like a quirk with the characters you can like tweak in, whether it's something that they mention throughout the book that they've done, or something that that's a favorite. Like imagine that they like love going on movie dates, but then you never show a movie date in the book. You could be like, well, here's a bonus scene where they're like going on a movie date finally, and that movie date could get spicy for anyone else. So
yeah. It's those kinds of things are great. I feel like they're in the olden days, 5 years ago, the epilogue was always them having twins. Like it was always the most over the top baby update. And I feel like that's not as much a thing anymore.
I agree with you. The epilogues used to always be like a good like 4 or 5 pages of here's them getting married, and then it would be and here's them having their first kids, and then it would take a break, and they'd be like, and here's even more time pass where they've had like 17 children, and they're like,
They used to just really just kick you 30 years down the road.
yeah, oh yeah, it will. And you sit there and you go, well, this is interesting, I guess. But then you tie yourself in. I mean, like, I feel like if you say what everything's going on, you gotta remember that if you're writing in a universe and it's like all of a sudden, if you fast forward any years, you can't be like, now they have kids, and everyone's like, but in the epilogue, you said it was 3.5 years later that they had their first child. And you're like, well,
Oh, oh yeah, and there's always those readers that remember it 20 times better than you even did. They're like, actually, their middle name was this, and it's like, are you a lawyer? Yeah, I knew you were. It's always the lawyer babes that remember every detail.
yeah. Well, how do you keep track of all the details for your books? Do you have like a little note sheet?
So when I did Kingmakers, I had multiple notebooks just full of character names and who was related to who and family trees and all the various houses and who belonged to each house. Because that was the crazy part is that as
Oh,
they would age each year, it would be, I'd have to be like, okay, now this person who's in this division now they are in this they're actually year 3 now because I had to remember all their different ages as they were going up and who's in what class and who knows who, and it was super freaking complicated, especially because there's all this mystery stuff and things with the spy woven in. And so it was when I was trying to finish year 4, which at the time I thought was the last book, so I was trying to wrap up absolutely everything. It was so mentally taxing trying to make sure that I was getting all those details correct and not messing anything up. And as I was working on it, I had just finished reading Game of Thrones up to whatever book was finished. And I was like, oh my God, George R. R. Martin is never going to finish this series. And I had this epiphany. I was like, his series is 10,000 times more complicated than mine. He's 70 years old and he's hasn't been writing it for 2 years. I was like, no, he's never finishing. And I finally had that realization and I could let go of it because I realized it was never going to happen.
you know what? Ah, that's I know that's so sad. But at the end of the day, who knows? Brandon Sanderson might finish it at this point. So like,
Somebody, man, it would be sad. But it's never the same. And I love Brandon Sanderson, but it's no, if a writer has a real voice, no one can really imitate it.
Yeah.
They can do a
But I
good
think that
job, but
that's
it's never gonna sound.
yeah, that's super interesting though. And that had never occurred to me before about the way that when you're writing in a university, that as you're doing each year, people are phasing out. So you can't have
Yes.
someone who remains the whole time if they're older. They gotta
Yeah.
leave at some point.
It
And
was
then you
so
gotta
it
put
was so
new
complicated.
people.
Hey Amy. Yeah, it was so freaking complicated and my head was exploding and I'm sure George R. R. Martin might be smarter than me. Martin. He might be smarter than
Smart,
me, but I was
smart.
like, no, there's no fucking way he's doing this at 70 with that series. I just gave up. I let it go. And I tried to enjoy the show, but we all know what happened with that.
I know. I know, so sad. I ignore that too. I'm like, it exists up to a certain point, and then that's like a lot of TV shows. I feel like I am very well known for not actually finishing. Like, if it's got multiple seasons, I won't watch the last season.
No, I'm a total DNFer. If something gets lame, people be like, no, no, come back. 4 seasons later, it gets good again. I'm like, dude, I have DNF'd when there was one episode that was boring.
Yes, you're like, that's just how it's gonna be. Yeah, keeping track while you're writing is definitely a hard thing. I mean, as an author, like, do you have any advice to aspiring authors? Anyone who's maybe on who is like trying to write their first book is kind of wondering what advice you might have.
Well, well, definitely keep track of all your characters and all of your traits and information that's been mentioned about them. It's good to have little lists of those kinds of things. The weird thing you always have to write down is the name of your pretend restaurants and places that they go and schools they attended, all those little details, whether you think you're going to need them again or not, because they're so hard to go and find later in the text. And the main thing I would say is a lot of new writers are pantsers. I was a pantser at the beginning, and that is okay. But the more that you can learn to plot, the more clean your the more clean but the more deep your stories can evolve to be. Because there's definitely pantsing is great, but I do think that plotting can give you just a tighter crafted story if you can learn to do more of that over time.
Yeah, if you kind of know the overarching where you're wanting to be going for everything, you kind of have a set path and you can deviate from the path here and there, but at least you know where your destination is going to be.
Yeah, well, and I Ryan and I always describe it like a romance novel is a roller coaster, and each of the roller coasters has kind of a different shape, but if you don't know what that shape is supposed to be, you're not necessarily going to write the highs and the drops exactly right if you don't kind of know where you are on the overall structure. Because ultimately, every story is kind of a three-act play. So if you don't realize that you're in the middle, or if you don't realize you're rising to the climax, I don't know. I think it's better if you at least have an idea of the shape, even if you haven't plotted out every single scene. I don't do that.
You go into each, well, actually, I know some authors who, yeah, the way that they plot out their books is they just do a one liner for each and every single chapter and then they go back and
Yeah,
write it, but they have each chapter as like a one liner, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it is interesting.
yeah.
Everyone is so different in the way that they go about like writing their stories, and so it's always funny to kind of grasp how everyone goes about it.
Yeah, and some people are way more intense plotters than I am. I've heard people say that they have outlines that were longer than the book ended up being. I'm like, okay, you're on a whole other level.
Oh my gosh. At that point they've created like a whole dossier, and it's like kind of like when people make those like world of X, Y, and Z, it's like it's a little world book, and that's what they've kind of crafted for themselves.
This is fantasy authors. I've seen fantasy authors with a binder this thick talking about their world that's definitely longer than the book is.
Well, they have to that you got to if you're creating all these, everything is made up, there ain't nothing, that everything's coming out of everywhere, so you kind of need to. But that being said, you'd mentioned about like creating the names of like restaurants and things like that. Out of all your books, is there one place that you would love to visit or that you think would be fun to go to?
Oh, well, so one of the places that feels the most like its own place to me is definitely the town of Grimstone. I don't know if
Mhm.
I would actually want to live there because it's very Stephen King-esque in the sense of if you live there, there's a 30% chance something horrible is going to happen to you. But so I don't know if I'd actually want to live there, but the whole feeling, that's the place that has the strongest mood to me where um
Mhm.
I can kind of see exactly what filter it would be like if it was filmed. I can hear the music that would be playing. I kind of know what everyone would be wearing. I can definitely feel it as a place, and I think it would be fun to be there
Yeah.
for a day or two.
Well, I agree. I really think that like the beach there would be really fun to like just see and like walk on that sand. I think that could be really fun. But I agree, you wouldn't want to stay for too long. You kind of want to like drive through and like visit it and be like, oh, I'm here for a day. Let's kind of see what it's like.
But then I always imagine that if you actually live there, like you are like Wednesday Addams in the sense that that is your nature. Like you are a dark soul who is like a mushroom that grows best in the woods. Like I just imagine that the people who live there, it suits them just fine.
You know what? That is true. I feel like it would be so much fun. Like I can like the way that you do it, like I can see it like in this whole like area, like in my head of what it would be like. And so I feel like it'd be really cool. A lot of people say to me from hey, there's a lot of people here who apparently want to come to visit Grimstone.
They're not afraid. They're brave.
Yeah, hey, and you're not gonna give them credit for them. I mean, I think it'd be kind of fun to visit Kingmakers, but I don't think I would do well.
Well, that's one of the things that I love in the Kingmaker series is year one is the students that want to be there. Anna wants
Yeah.
to be there. Leo wants to be there. Dean wants to be there. They're competitive. They want to take over their families' empires. They are excited to inhabit that space. But that's why year two is so fun when Kat shows up because Kat does not want to be at Kingmakers. She does not want to be Mafia. She does not feel comfortable there. She's terrified. She's completely out of her element, and she has to slowly learn over the course of the next two books how to survive and thrive there. And so I loved kind of that flip of the script where it's showing you Kingmakers as someone who wants to be there, but then showing you as someone who doesn't. And just I like showing the same environment from very different perspectives.
I think it makes a huge difference, and it's really fun to see also other characters from others' eyes that you're able to see. You know who someone else might have loved when you go through someone else's eyes. You see them in a completely different light, and I think that's also really fun to play with.
Yeah, so Kingmakers is actually three POV for exactly that
Yeah.
reason that I love I love writing first person because I love being inside the character's head, but I do also love showing people from other people's perspective. And actually I would love to ask the people here, so I know all the benefits. My whole career I've written dual POV and in this case triple POV. But what do you guys feel about single POV? Because the benefits of single POV, especially if you're inside the female character, is you kind of get to fall in love with the male character from a distance a little bit more. What do you guys think? Do you like single? Are you obsessed with double? What's your vote? Do you read a mix of both? I'd be curious to know.
Oh, that's a good
'Cause I'm
question. Yeah, if it's just the FMC's point of view or if it's dual POV, because I feel like I also see both. I feel like I see sometimes in like some darker romances, I see like just a single POV and then they eventually bring in the double POV, or there are some wide chooses I read where it's just the female's perspective and then you don't know what's going on for the guys.
Yes. I could see that with RH. So I read a mix of both, they say, or yeah. See, sometimes it's great to not know what the guy is thinking. This is what I'm curious to try. I'm considering doing a single POV down the road, but I do love bouncing back and forth and showing them each from the other side. I love
I
single, love
think the cool
double.
thing, yeah,
Uh,
you could just spend
I figured
time
it would
together.
probably be split.
Yeah,
Both,
well,
it
I
adds to
think
the
I think
angst.
what's fun is I think it's worth doing a single POV if you're trying to keep something hidden from the
Yes,
heroine and from the
yes,
readers.
yes, that's so
And
true.
so if you don't want people to know things, you get like more of an element of surprise because the only narrator you have to rely on is her. And there's no one else to you to be like, oh, I don't know what's going on.
Well, and there's a certain level of absorption into the FMC where she really becomes your avatar when you're inside her head the whole time. I mean, Emily Henry, she only does single POV. She's probably my favorite romance author. And you really do kind of sink in and insert and then fall in love with the guy. Um, but I don't know. I do love jumping into the dude's head too because I really do believe that men and women think quite differently from each other, and
Yeah.
I think that it's really, and it's always just fun to show um, that how the person sees themselves is not necessarily how they're being perceived by the other person at all.
Ooh, yes, that's true. Someone else just said that they read a series where it starts off with just
Oh,
her
that's
POV,
fun.
but as each book goes on, you start to get more. Which I actually, that's one of my favorite things in fantasy books is when it starts off with one POV, but as you keep going, you start to see more people's POVs and it like builds the world. It's really fun.
Miscommunication trope is forbidden no matter what. So,
But it's so
so I
realistic.
agree, Taylor. No, it's the worst.
And well, that's the thing is, no one ever wants to read about actual reality. That's why miscommunication is the most realistic trope. So no one wants to read it because it's so real. It's pretty normal in
So
life.
don't get me wrong, miscommunication when both people are being flawed humans who can't speak clearly or express themselves clearly to each other, I'm actually not against that. It's more just the ones where it's like all you have to do is just say one sentence and it would be
Uh,
cleared up. Those are the ones where it's
you're sitting there and
frustrating.
you're like, oh my God, just tell them this one thing and it would be fine. And they're like, no,
Like
I
in a
can't
movie
tell
where they're
them.
like, wait, it's not what you blah blah. It's like spit it out.
And then by the time they've decided to, the person's gone. And you're like, oh, God damn it. Well, we're only going to stay on for a couple more minutes because we're just going to do a quick 45 chit chat with everyone. So if anyone else has any other questions that they want to pop in that we can chat about, you're more than welcome to, unless it's about tomorrow's reveal, in which case, no.
You
You
just
gotta
have to
wait a
wait
couple
24
hours.
hours.
I know, it should be really, really fun, but we're excited. That'll be the next thing that we do. But I think it's always have you had, let's say this, have you had a lot of fun writing the new series? Is there one thing about it that you're really excited for people to get to that you can share?
Oh, it has just been an absolute blast. Oh, there's one for you, Madison.
Yeah,
Are we
okay.
getting
Oh,
book three?
yeah, book three just came out last week, so that just came out. So that is all three, and that is now done. So it's just three books in the series. It is completed. I don't have this little nugget that stays by itself, all three books, which is really fun.
You are killing it, babe. If you guys don't know, Madison is basically the one of the hardest working women in romance. She's full time with Bloom and full time killing it as an author. So she basically just puts us all to shame, two jobs at once.
I love you so much. You're the sweetest. And then also got
um,
Kat, like this too.
Oh, hey, Kat. And TC or Taylor was saying was asking if the reveal tomorrow is for Love Contract. It is not. The good news with Love Contract is it has been purchased by Bloom, but the bad news is it's not actually. The other ones aren't going to come out till 2026. So I'm sorry about that. But that is the growing pains of switching from indie to publisher. So the series that we're revealing tomorrow is a brand new series, and it is going to be coming out in April of next year. And it is what I've been slaving away on for the last 6 months or so. And yeah, I can't say much about it except that it is going to have marriage of convenience, one of my all-time favorite tropes. Enemies to lovers, another one I love. And we'll just save the rest for tomorrow.
Oh, thank you so much. It was really great. I remember meeting you in the window. It's one of the people who was at the signing that you were at with Elle in earlier this year in the comments, which is really sweet. But yes, no, it's really exciting, and I think Love Contract will be coming eventually. But trust us, like this next series is going to be great, and Love Contract, it will be getting completed. It will
Yeah.
come, so
Yes,
don't worry.
the good news with it is because Bloom picked it up, it will get a full wide release. It will get simultaneous audiobook. It'll get all the love in the world and all the help it deserves, but not till early 2026. But very early in the year, February, I think. So as soon as possible, 2026.
Tentatively, let's not go giving out 2026 dates yet. That's the goal.
Madison's like, zip it.
I'm
Stop
like,
spilling secrets.
oh, although we should this one we can actually answer. And that answer is yes. All future books are going to be with Bloom.
Yes, once I sampled the joys of having an actual publisher help me to do all the things that I'm terrible at doing myself. Yes, I don't think I'll ever go back. Bloom is incredible, and I'm very, very lucky.
Partnership. Woo! Yeah. Hey, just we got more brains and more chefs in the kitchen, just cooking everything up and working on things together. It makes it really fun to kind of create like a full 360 for everything is really fun.
Yeah, having a whole team of people who are much more talented than me at lots of all the different jobs they do is truly a blessing. It was it was an incredible ride for Ryan and I and the indie world, but we have a lot more gray hairs now, so we're happy to accept the help.
Yes. Um, yes, just a quick sum up for everyone just before we do log off, just for some people who did join us. I see a couple of same questions, and we'll maybe do a bit of an FAQ later on this year. This is making me think just to let people know about kind of where things are going with Bloom and New later. But all of Sophie's future books are going to be with Bloom. Love Contract is coming. It is currently on hold until 2026. She will be revealing a brand new series tomorrow, which will be publishing in 2025, which is very exciting. And then more to come eventually. But those are the big major things that I think a lot of people have asked about.
Yeah. And the Kingmakers series, the re-releases are continuing. Year three comes out in December,
Mm-hmm.
and year four in January. And
Graduation.
they're just my darling babies, my darling dramatic, violent, angsty babies.
Yes.
And
Oh, they're
I'm
gonna look
so
so
excited.
good on the shelf together. Oh, they're so pretty. All right. Well, thank you guys all so much, and thank you, So, for joining. It was really great
Thank you,
talking with everyone.
Madison. Love you
We'll
so
talk.
much, and thank you everyone that popped on. Really appreciate you guys.
Yes, and we'll see you tomorrow for the. Well, we won't see you, but we'll hear from you tomorrow when we do the reveal. Bye.
Yes.